Welcome to the Elegance Hair Automated Training Line. I will now provide the lesson. We will now begin the 2-question quiz to test your understanding. Thank you. The quiz is now complete. Your results will be processed and sent to the head manager.
I'm going to teach you how to build this exact agent using my 3-step method, and I can guarantee you that you've never heard of the last one. Hi, I'm Anthony, the #1 mentor for Voice AI. Hit the subscribe button for more in-depth tutorials like this. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this project was actually a request from one of my students who landed a client in the salon niche. So Naveen, great job. Super happy for you, man. And basically the type of project that he needs is, instead of an outbound or inbound service, they need a quiz type of AI voice agent for salon managers that basically either calls or accepts calls 4 to 5 times a month in order to give a lesson, give the quiz, and grade the quiz. And basically the point of this is to see if the managers can get a passing percentage of 70% for 20 questions, or if they get a fail, in which case they probably have to retake the test. And basically the information is going to be sent to the head manager and the spreadsheet. So basically it can be understood as a training chatbot. And obviously it saves a lot of time and money because people can just call it on their convenience, and it doesn't have to be super formal or anything like that. So as I was showing you earlier, this is going to be the n8n workflow. If you don't already know, n8n is an automatic workflow builder where you just create nodes like this and you just link them together left to right, and you just turn it active and it just runs automatically. So the first node that we're going to use is a webhook node. Now, what is a webhook node? A webhook node is basically, it gives you a URL and it allows you to connect 2 different programs together. In this case, we're going to be connecting n8n, which is this program, with another program called Vapi. And the Vapi program is basically where we will build our AI voice agent so that it can pass data over to our automated workflow as the backend. So basically, we'll just grab this production URL later and we'll use that to connect to Vapi. It's pretty simple. After that, we're going to use this node called a code node. And this is going to be responsible for parsing the structured data that gets received from Vapi. And this is basically what's going to happen is, after the call, the Vapi agent is going to summarize the call. And it's going to give the data over to n8n using structured data. And so we need to use a code node to basically go in and analyze the data and just basically understand what it actually is saying. Okay. Next, we're going to go to an HTTP request node. And this node is basically just going to send those results over to Google Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is one of the strongest models right now. And basically what that'll do is it'll analyze the results and it'll create the results so that we can aggregate them later. But I'll just show you real quick what that looks like. You just go in and set up your API. I'll link to that video where I've already shown you how to do that. And basically the point is here, we're just going to write a really nice prompt here, basically saying, okay, well, you are a strict but fair training evaluator. Your task is to create a list of the manager's answers for each question and so on and so forth, right? It just takes a lot of prompt engineering to get this correct. Perfect. And finally, we're going to use some more code in order to aggregate the results. And what does aggregate mean here? Basically, we're going to get all of these results. For example, the manager ID is just going to be the phone number. The service learned is going to be basically the questions that were asked. It's going to do some more calculations for what the score was, what the percentage was, what the result was. It's going to be a pass if it's greater than or equal to 70, or fail if it's below, things like that. Finally, we're going to need to set up a Google Sheet. So the Google Sheet is going to be responsible for inputting the information into the Google Sheet. So real quick, I'll just show you how to create one. So go ahead and go to Google Sheets and then create a new sheet. In this case, I've named it quiz results. And what we're going to look for is the timestamp, the ID, the service learned, the score, percentage, result, and detailed feedback. Now, again, this is just some information that we're going to log from the call that we actually got. And the way that we set this up is just go ahead and set up your credential. I'm going to link to that video to help you get that set up. And basically, you're just going to select it from the list. So whatever you named it, I named it research and quiz results. And as you can see here, I've already plugged in the references that basically map to the information that we need. So if you're setting this up for the first time, what to do is you'll just do a test execution, and then you can just go over here to the input side, and then you can click something like Vapi Webhook, and then you'll be able to pull the information over here and just drag and drop. That's why this is called no code. It's extremely easy to do. Perfect. And finally, we're going to send an email to the head manager. And basically, you just go here. Obviously, you're going to have to set this up as well. You just go to Google Cloud, I believe. I'll link to that. Basically, you just type in your email address. This is where you're going to be sending the email from. And then No, I said that wrong. You're going to send the email to the head manager from your email that you set up using the credential here. And the result, the subject is just going to be whatever you want it to be, but this is what I wrote it for now. New Salon quiz result for, let's just say, Anthony. Result, so pass or fail with a score of, let's just say, 70% out of 100. Okay. And this basically helps you keep track of who passed and who failed. So, all right. So now that is the n8n workflow fully completed. By the way, if you want to save hours of time and headache, go ahead and go to my school community, click on the YouTube prompts and templates, and I'm going to make a post basically containing all of the files like the workflow and the assistant prompt, which we'll use in Vapi later. Just go ahead and click download and download that. Also, if you have any questions, go to the community discussion section where we answer every single question, so you never get stuck. All right, so going back over to here, we are now done with n8n. So all we need to do now is go over to a website called Vapi. Okay. Now, once you sign up for Vapi, it's completely free using the links in the description. It's going to look something like this. All we need to do is set up our tool and create a phone number. So let's go ahead and create that phone number because it takes a while to load. And by the way, you can create up to 10 free US phone numbers for absolutely free. So it doesn't matter what area code you use anything that you want. So as you can see, it's taking some time to activate. We'll just go ahead and leave that. Let's go over to and create our assistants. This one's going to be called Quizzer. You can also name it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. The model that I found works the best, is the most balanced, and is the cheapest, is just GPT 4.1 mini. So that's what we'll start with. These are just AI models that get produced by a bunch of these different companies. It doesn't really matter. You just play with them and see what works. The first message mode is going to be assistant speaks first with model generated message. We can just ignore the first message because we're using a model generated message. And for the system prompt, the easiest way to do this, since I've already spent a lot of time testing it, is to get that file. So go ahead and open the files that you have downloaded. It's going to be called n8n Quizzer Assistant Prompt. So it's going to be this one. And I'll walk you through how this works. So just go over here, Control A, Control V to paste, publish to save it every once in a while. But basically the point of the system prompt is we're going to give it a role and a goal. Right? That basically gives it the instructions that it needs to do what you're trying to give it to do. So in this case, we're going to say you are an expert AI training instructor for a high-end salon called Elegance Hair. And this is basically the flow that it's going to give, right? It's going to say, well, something like, hello, we're going to give you a lesson. We're going to give you a lesson. And after the lesson, we're going to give you a quiz. So please listen and then do the quiz. Okay. This is not too bad. Next, we can adjust the temperature. This basically just means how crazy we want the AI to be. Now, for this one, since it's not, using any personal identifiable information, it's okay to leave it at something like, I don't know, 0.3 or something. That should be fine. But sometimes you might want to bring it all the way down to 0. But let's leave it at 0.3 for now. It doesn't really matter. Voice config. Here you can change. You can choose between like thousands of voices, but we'll just leave it as the default for now. It's not too terrible. All right, we're not going to need any of these. We actually don't need any tools because in this project, we're not going to be using tools in order to send data over to n8n. What we will be using instead is we're going to be using a summary. And basically the summary is a end of call analysis that will happen after the phone call. So after we end the phone call, the agent is going to do some AI stuff and it's going to aggregate the data and it's going to send the data over to n8n. So we don't actually need to use any tool calls here. By the way, this is going to be step 3 right here that I was telling you earlier, the step that you've probably never seen before. We're going to use something called structured data. Now, this is a little bit different from what I said for summary. Summary is just like a pretty basic note-taking summary, but structured data will give you the summary in a very structured way. And this way you can use the data in your backend, like we're trying to do over here. We need to make sure that this data is very structured or otherwise it's going to break our workflow. So that's why it's very important to use the structured data for this instead of using the summary. So now for the structured data, it does take some time to test and write this prompt. So I've already done that. Go to the files that you downloaded. It's going to be called n8n Quizzer. Let's just see what that's called. Structured data prompt. So go ahead and open that up. Control A, Control C, Control V. And the point of this is basically to say, you are an expert data extraction AI, okay? And this is going to basically tell it to listen to the transcript one more time, analyze it, and it's going to find all the questions and the answers. And then it's going to format them in JSON. And what JSON is basically like a format of code, and it's going to put it into an array. And the point of this is just to give it a very, very structured way in order to do exactly what we need to do, okay? And as you can see, it's basically asking for something called quiz results, right? And so what we need to do is we need to add a property for the quiz result. And so what that's going to be is basically called quiz result. And it's just going to be of type string, because as you can see here, it's saying example of the required raw string output, quiz results, question, and then this is an example, answer keratin, so on and so forth. So this is correct. Is enum basically just means, are you going to give it some choices or not, right? And so since we're not giving it exact choices, we're going to let it handle it by itself. So leave that unchecked, and mark as required is correct, because we need this. Absolutely need this information before it passes it over. There's no point in passing it over if it doesn't have quiz results. So now that is done. The last thing that we need to do is set up the messaging section. Now, the point of the messaging section is to connect Vapi with our n8n workflow. So we need to get the webhook URL in order to pass it in for the server URL here. So go ahead and go back over to n8n, double click on the Vapi webhook, click on production URL. Now, the reason why we're using production is because we want to turn this workflow to active, which basically means that it's consistently and constantly listening for new data. Whereas if you put it on test, it's going to only do it once, and it's going to shut off, right? So we definitely want to use this one. So click on this a couple times, make sure it just copies, go back over to Vapi, paste it over. And then now that it's all loaded in, perfect. What we need to do here is we need to configure the server messages. Now, if you don't do this, it's going to give you like 10 executions every single time somebody says anything, right? So you don't want that. You want it to just give you exactly what you need. So go ahead and hit select all twice like I just did, and then click on end of call report once. And that's going to basically limit only to the analysis that happens at the end of the call. Just hit publish to make sure that everything is nice and set up. All right, so all that we need to do now is basically assign the phone number to this agent that we just created. So click on phone numbers, scroll down to the inbound section. We're going to assign the quizzer agent that we just built to this phone number, so that whenever somebody calls this phone number, this agent is going to answer the phone. Okay, go ahead and hit save. All right, so before I go ahead and give this a call to show you guys that demo, I'm going to go over exactly what we did today, just to show you a conclusion of what we did. So the Vapi webhook, as you know, we just need the production URL. Everything else is already set up. That's perfect. Next, we looked at the code node, and this is basically just parsing the structured data that comes from the Vapi webhook. Next, we set up the HTTP request that goes to Gemini 2.5 Pro, and we set up our credential, and we wrote the prompts that basically says, you are a strict training evaluator. After that, we're going to use another code node to aggregate those results into exactly what we need, such as the manager ID, score, percentage, just do some calculations. Next, we're going to set up our Google Sheet, set up your credential, and then just make sure that you choose the right one from the list and from the sheet. And then these references you just pull over from your test executions. Finally, we're going to use a Google Gmail node to send the email to our head manager just to say what the result was. So something like failed with a score of 0 out of 100. Okay. And then in Vapi, what we did was we went ahead and created a phone number. Then we went over to our assistants and we set up our assistant using the assistant prompt that we got from school community. And then we left all that alone. And then we went straight down to the structured data section in order to get the prompt from the school community again and just paste it in here. And that basically says, okay, no, now we set up our agent and now I need you to give me the structured data at the end of every call. And finally, we're going to set up the messaging section, basically getting the production URL and passing it over here. And that's it. Perfect. So now it is time to go ahead and give that a call and see what happens.
Welcome to the Elegant Hair Automated Training Line. Today's session is on the keratin smoothing treatments. I will now provide the lesson. Please listen carefully. The keratin smoothing treatment is a chemical process designed to smooth and add shine to frizzy hair. The primary ingredient, keratin, is a natural protein that makes up our hair, skin, and nails. During the treatment, a keratin-based solution is applied to hair and then sealed in using the heat of a flat iron. The lesson is now complete. We will now begin the 2-question quiz to test your understanding. Please answer each question to the best of your ability after I ask it. Question 1. What is the main purpose of the keratin smoothing treatment?
Yeah, the main purpose of the keratin smoothing treatment is to make hair nice and shiny and also to reduce the frizz.
Okay, next question. What is used to seal in the keratin solution during the treatment?
Could you say that one more time?
What is used to seal in the keratin solution during the treatment?
Yeah, so the tool that is used to seal in the keratin during the treatment is called a flat iron.
Thank you. The quiz is now complete. Your results will be processed and sent to the head manager. You may now hang up.
All right, thanks. All right, so there you go. I just showed you exactly how to build, set up, and test your own training manager. Basically, it calls or it can answer calls or both call. But basically, it will automatically train and it'll give lessons and it'll give the tests. And as you can see now, hopefully it's updated by now, but there you go. Automatically updated. It's going to update with the timestamp, the phone number, which is going to be associated with the manager ID, and that's going to talk about the service learned. The score looks like I got a 90 out of 100, which is not bad. Okay. The results, and this is the feedback. Okay. So we'll just check this out real quick. What is the main purpose of the keratin smoothing treatment? I correctly identified that it was shining and reducing the frizz. Oh, for a perfect score, also mention that it smooths the hair. Okay, yeah, I did forget that. What is used to seal in the keratin solution? Yes, I did say that it was a flat iron, so that is very cool. And as you can see, it passed. So the next thing that we need to test is basically in Gmail. Hopefully it would have sent that email. So all I need to do is basically refresh this. And as you can see, I just got the email. It's saying new salon quiz result for phone number passed with a score of 90 out of 100. Okay. So as you can see, every single step is working properly, right? It created that information, all the code nodes just aggregated the information. It saved it to the Google Sheet and it sent it over to Gmail. So that was really amazing, guys. If you enjoyed that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now. And if you have any questions, go over to the school community, like I said earlier, and just go ahead and click on community discussion and ask that question. Oh, and by the way, we're doing a free giveaway right now where we're giving free lifetime VIP. So that's pretty exciting. Just go ahead and join and go ahead and comment here for your chance to win. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.